I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
You idiot! How you like that, boy?
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey, I should probably get those off my screen, huh? But without spilling my drink. So this is going to be interesting. Okay. Anyway, it's Wednesday. Welcome to the show. We have a good stream for you today. We have some disastrous news. And some good news as well. So you might have noticed Cosby. I'm going to get into the Cosby story. It's disastrous, but we're going to start out with fun. And by fun, I mean somebody died. Hold.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Donald Rumsfeld is dead. Yes, that is breaking news. Don Rumsfeld, he was the former Secretary of Defense under the Bush administration, and I believe under the Reagan administration, though I'm not entirely sure. This was back in the 70s, so I would have to look. I'd have to look at that. But nonetheless, this is a man who is responsible for the murder and torture, the torture of thousands of people, the murder of millions of people in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, he is dead. Good. When's Kissinger? That's all I have to say. When's Kissinger? I know, it may seem callous. It may seem rude. It may seem like I'm dancing on the grave of a person. But Donald Rumsfeld, understand, he was a terrible person. So, I'm not exactly going to do a dance on his grave, but I'm not crying for him either. And so... no, nobody's going to miss this guy. In fact, he's a war criminal. War criminals, I'm sorry. I'll say the same thing I said about, what was it? John McCain. War criminals shouldn't be rehabilitated. War criminals are bad. And I'm okay with war criminals dying. Just saying. Dancing on the grave of a mass murder. You see me dancing. Oh, Rumsfeld started in the Nixon administration. Yes. That's what it was. Nixon, Reagan, they're all pretty horrible. And so I don't feel bad for him. War criminal, he's dead. The world is now a better place. Let's just say that. Now, let's see. By the way, fun fact. The international, I believe it was the International Criminal Court, did declare Rumsfeld to be a war criminal. In fact, let me read here. This is from Esquire. And what was the first ever conviction of its kind anywhere in the world? The former U.S. president and 7 key members of administration were found guilty of war crimes. That's, of course, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, their legal advisors, Alberto Gonzalez, David Addington, William Haynes, Jay Bybee, and John Yoo, were all tried in absentia in Malaysia. At the end of the week-long hearing, the 5-panel tribunal unanimously delivered guilty verdicts against Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and their key legal advisors, who were all convicted as war criminals for torture and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment. For example, from places, these torture centers like Abu Ghraib or Abu Ghraib. And so, we don't have to posthumously convict him. He's already a war criminal, according to the ICC. But of course, we don't listen to the ICC anymore. Obviously, if we did, well, we would actually, do something about the illegal settlements in Israel, or I should say in Palestine, by the Israelis. So, nonetheless, that's one less war criminal in this world, and I'm totally okay with that. Good. He was not a good person, and again, none of us should have any. And understand, I'm a very empathetic person. And so I have to push all that aside just for me to be like, fuck that guy. The world is a better place. So let's just say that, okay? Let's just say that. That's the breaking news. And there's no cause of death was immediately provided. This is according to CNN. Died at the age of 88. And then, of course, there's no more details. But again, I don't really need details because, once again, I've said what I needed to say. Fuck that guy. So, nice that Rumsfeld is gone. Not so much that he went without being punished, let alone in any meaningful way. True, but you never understand that, in this world, war criminals never get punished. That's the sad way of the world. That is the sad way of American imperialism. That's the side effect of living in essentially the empire. By the way, if there's an afterlife, Mike Gravel is literally kicking Rumsfeld's ass right now in a galactic after death showdown. I'm just saying. So at least you can think about that. Need a shirt that says Jeff says fuck that guy. Apparently this is going to take off. Where it's just like, no, fuck that guy. Hey, you know what? You give me the ideas, I'll make the shirts. Seriously, I'll do it. Don't make me. All right. So, that said, all right. So let me just be honest right now. I'm super scatterbrained, and I am super
Please clap.
energy right now, and so I have massive brain fog. But I'm going to muddle through the show because there's very important stories that I want to get to, and so let's get to those. We have the Trump CFO. Is going to get himself into trouble. He's already gotten himself into trouble. Charges to be coming soon. We have Right Wing Watch. I just wanted to show you a video for this because it's really funny. You have Rick Wiles. I don't know if you know about him. One of those far right pastors that gets covered a lot by Right Wing Watch. Having a fun one about the banning of Right Wing Watch that aged very, very poorly. So good stuff. I enjoy it. We have, of course, the Bill Cosby stuff. We have Clyburn jumping in to try to block Nina Turner. And then there's a story I didn't get to yesterday as well. Yeah, big Jeb energy right there. Jeb would have won it all. You know it.
Please clap.
Give me a break.
Had 120 espressos. No, this is my natural. This is how I normally feel. So, just posted a FTG on that. Is this going to be a hashtag? FTG? I endorse it. I endorse you all to just say, to tweet out, fuck that guy. Let's do it. In fact, I'm actually going to tweet that out. Let's see. No, guys. Here's the thing. I don't like take any medications. I don't do anything like that. I drink coffee. That's what I do. I drink coffee. And yes, I had a frozen, not a frozen. I had a coffee to try to get rid of that brain fog. And it didn't work. So I'm kind of stuck with it today. Muddling through. What did Konami do? All right, I'm going to tweet that out. Let's see. Let's just see. Donald Rumsfeld. I'm going to go on my Twitter here. So we're going to do that. Let's see. And I'm just going to write it. Fuck that guy. Hashtag fuck that guy. Bam. Parlay. All right. Caffeine. Yeah, caffeine is a gateway drug. It's a gateway to being awake. Just saying. Gateway. Did I end up having a coffee milkshake? No. Well, there was milk in it. But not necessarily a milkshake. No. Let me go to my Twitter here. I just want to see what I'm looking at. So if you could. All right, there's my tweet. Hashtag fuck that guy. Just saying. Okay. I have to get news done today. So let's do it. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, before I do that, I promised you that I was gonna have an announcement of what's going on. The neolibs are gonna dunk on you. Good, bring it. Because it turns out that I don't actually care. Honestly. Okay, good news though. I'm going to be, and it's exciting, and I should have saved it for tomorrow because it makes it more relevant. But I will be co-hosting the Damage Report on Friday with John Adirola. Fun. I've really been looking forward to doing that. It's hard for me to keep that a secret and not talk about it. But that's really, really kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to it. John, of course, is a good friend of mine. And I really look forward to making my debut on the Damage Report with the Dragon Squad. So, that's going to be a lot of fun. Tune into that on Friday. Looking forward to it. I also, by the way, next Friday, I'm going to be on the TYT Power Panel as well. What is my dragon name? Acid Dragon. Next mission, get on Majority Report. Look, I've spoken to Emma, so I could probably reach out to her, see if I can be on Majority Report. But I don't know. It seems like that's more of like an elite club with Sam Cedar. Maybe I'm wrong. But like, it feels like it's harder to get on that show than I think anywhere else. So interesting. But yeah, fuck that guy Rumsfeld. True. Well, I mean, I don't watch a lot of Majority Report. I'm actually to the left of, Sam Cedar. That said, Sam Cedar is I respect the guy. I think he's really smart. I'm just a little left on him when it comes to positions. And I feel like actually it'd be a really good conversation. But I don't know if I'm there yet. You see what I mean? But yeah. It's going to be fun, though, being on the damage report. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully, hopefully I do a good job. Let's just say that. All right. Anyway, I've wasted enough time. Let's do it. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that longtime Trump Organization chief financial officer Alan Weisselberg is going to be hit with some criminal charges. So that's supposed to happen tomorrow. According to the Journal's sources, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, that's Cy Vance, is expected to charge the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer with tax-related crimes this week in an investigation that could eventually implicate Trump, but we don't know. So it would be very interesting to see them actually go after Trump himself, as opposed to the organization, or to the CFO himself. So let me give you more details on this. For months, the Manhattan DA Office of New York and the State Attorney General's Office, Letitia James, have been investigating whether Mr. Weisselberg and other employees illegally avoided paying taxes and perks, things like cars, apartments, private school tuition that they received from the Trump Organization. So, yeah, they gave him a bunch of this stuff and they didn't pay taxes on it. All right, well, that seems like it's fairly straightforward that you're not supposed to do that, that you are supposed to pay your fair share. Now, the Manhattan DA's office has also been investigating the Trump Organization for 3 years and has received extensive cooperation from Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, of course, is somebody that, I'll be honest, I've called him a snake before. I still believe he is a snake. I know animals are innocent. But as much as I don't like Michael Cohen, he has been right about things. And he has given a lot of insight into Trump. And so I think that's interesting that he's saying that, it's not just going to be the CFO, but this will eventually take down Trump himself. Again, from somebody who was in the inner circle and not just a coffee boy. Okay. To see him say that, no, this is going to happen, that seems significant to me. But anyway, now that fixer, of course, pled guilty to making illegal hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. We knew all that. Now, the organization is alleged to have inflated their assets to secure loans, deflated assets, claimed losses when it came to valuing them for taxes, in order to not only avoid paying taxes, but of course to secure pretty big refunds from the government. One of those refunds was about $73 million. And so understand there are two different investigations. And there was one, of course, into Stormy Daniels, and there was one, of course, into the taxes. And those two have kind of just combined into a gigantic, think about I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, and that giant rolling ball trap. That's kind of what's going on with the Trump organization. They're not going to be able to get out of the way of that. But we'll see. Again, we'll see. There were so many different instances of Trump to Trump organization, of course, that there's been so many instances where Trump or the organization have not been charged with anything. So they have been completely missed everything. And so we'll see. Did the New York AG already stated that they will not be charged? We'll see. I mean, as far as the organization is concerned, and CFO and the CFO. And so that's what we're looking for right now is the CFO. And I think there's a reason for that. The CFO, Weisselberg, they want him to flip on Trump. And so we'll see if that happens. But again, there was an investigation by the New York Times that looked into Trump's tax returns, right? And they found that he paid nothing in federal taxes for the majority of years reviewed, and a total of $750 during his first 2 years as president. I paid more in taxes. I paid more in taxes. I'm sure most of you paid more in taxes than Donald Trump. Not only that, but at the same time, while he was avoiding U.S. taxes, he was actually paying taxes in other countries because, well, their tax laws make it so that rich people actually do have to pay more of their fair share than they do in America. He also received tens of millions of dollars from foreign sources. He also received he actually owes now about $300 million in loans over the next several years that need to get paid back. He vastly overstated his charitable giving. And of course, any charitable giving is pretty much a tax write-off. That's why a lot of these rich people do that. It's not that they care about charity. No, they care about the tax write-offs. And then, of course, the tax write-offs give you good PR. Oh, look, I what are you talking about? I donated to a charity. I'm not a horrible person. No, you're still a horrible person who got a tax write-off for giving to charity. Ridiculous. He also has been involved in a year-long battle with the IRS over that $73 million refund, as I mentioned, which may be owed back to the federal government. And he appeared to have worked with his daughter, Ivanka, to make up fake consulting fees and then use those as tax write-offs. Again, I pretty much have covered all of that. He also apparently mischaracterized his 200-acre family retreat in upstate New York, the tax filings in order to write off millions of dollars more. And so if anything knows about the details of all of these tax shenanigans, it's the chief financial officer, Weisselberg. And again, I think that a lot of this has to do with trying to pressure Weisselberg in order to flip over on Donald Trump. So the thinking is you hit him with a bunch of charges and then offer him a plea deal for his cooperation. I'm just saying that's what I hear. That's what I see. Okay. Now, again, as I mentioned, Cohen, as well as former Trump Organization employees, they said that prosecuting Trump would almost certainly require the cooperation of Weisselberg. So the question is whether Weisselberg will go to prison for Donald Trump and not cooperate. That is certainly a possibility. And that would, of course, keep someone like Donald Trump out of prison, which, again, could very well be what will happen. So I don't know what's going to happen. Now, the question is, why are we even talking about this? Why is this even important? Donald Trump's not president anymore, you say. Get off your Trump derangement syndrome for a second here. Okay, well, first, I don't think that people should be getting away with not paying their taxes. Rich people. Donald Trump is allegedly rich. I see him and his organization, his company, no different than any of the corporations like Amazon, for example, that pay nothing in taxes and yet get massive amounts of profit. Why let Trump go? Why not go after the Trump organization for not paying their fair share? That doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. Rich people shouldn't be getting away with not paying their taxes. I'm not going to ignore it because he's no longer president. I think that's dangerous. And I think ignoring things that former presidents did wrong. And I'm going to make a probably a ridiculous comparison, but stick with me, okay? George W. Bush is a war criminal. Barack Obama's a war criminal for using like drones. And I know people are really uncomfortable when you say that. Donald Trump was also a war criminal. Pretty much every president that we've had has been a war criminal. Now, what does that have to do with this? Not a lot. I'll be honest with you. But really, it's more about the tendency for people to overlook the crimes of past presidents. And so the reason that, I talk about war crimes is because that's what they all have in common, right? Donald Trump also has additional crimes, financial crimes, which they are much more likely to go after than they would war crimes, because unfortunately we are the United States empire. And so it is important to talk about this to avoid the rehabilitation of Donald Trump. Again, we have the rehabilitation of war criminals all the time. George W. Bush, for example, Barack Obama didn't need to be rehabilitated. He's still incredibly popular. But Donald Trump, you really want to see Donald Trump rehabilitated? I don't want to see any of them rehabilitated. So if we can hit him with this, with anything, well, then I see that maybe, would prevent that kind of rehabilitation to see him go to prison for tax fraud, for at least defrauding the American people. And that's ultimately what tax fraud is. We end up paying more so that he doesn't have to. And so, yeah, it may be a pretty poor comparison, and a pretty poor point that I've made in a strange way. But to me, it kind of makes sense. So I think that past presidents need to be held accountable for, whatever crime that they do. Crime is crime, right? And that, again, means war crimes. And I know that will never happen. But at least with this, we can start somewhere. All right. Moving on. I feel like we do talk about a little too much about Trump on the show. It's because I want to hold him accountable. Just because he's not in power anymore doesn't mean that the stuff that he does is okay. Suddenly okay. And I feel like if I let that go, I'm doing the same kind of rehabilitation that, for example, people would do after George W. Bush. You see what I mean? You see my logic on this? I feel like it makes sense, and I feel like not talking about it lets him get away with it. And I understand that there is an overfixation as well. And so, it's really all about balance here. And I try to do my best to do as much balance as I can in coverage. And, and sometimes I'm not successful. Let's just say that. Anyway, let's move on. Last week, the channel Right Wing Watch had received some YouTube strikes for posting videos of things that right-wingers have said. That's kind of their whole thing. They'll go and they'll clip right-wingers out from their own YouTube shows very often, and they'll just post it in context. And they'll say, hey, look at this horrible thing that this right-winger just said. That's literally all they do. Now, of course, unfortunately, YouTube said that these videos had breached their terms of service. Now, their terms of service, as I've mentioned before in other videos, are pretty unevenly enforced. Nonetheless, those strikes led to YouTube banning the channel even after an appeal. Now, the whole thing, of course, is posted up on social media. Now, the good news is Right Wing Watch has been restored, and that's good. But before that, you had the right wing that unanimously cheered. Even I had comments. I brought on Vadim Newquist to Pay It's Vadim. We had a conversation, and on some of the comments were, "Oh, you liberals, you shouldn't have ever cheered for censorship." So let me get one thing straight. For one, I'm not a lib. Okay. And for two, I've never cheered for censorship. So let me be clear on where I stand here, okay? I think bad ideas should be countered by good ideas. Bad speech countered by good speech. In fact, I think that's a big part of my show, is taking things that right-wingers have said and things that they believe and deconstructing them to make it look like the stupid, the stupid, hateful things that they are, and explaining why they are stupid and hateful. Okay? And so, again, that's a big part of my show. That said, I realize that these companies have a TOS, terms of service, right? And they do legally have the ability to deplatform you. You don't have a right to a platform. Now, there are systemic ways that we could actually fix that, creating a nationalized platform, for example, that enforces standards of free speech. And that isn't, a gatekeeping or isn't really controlled by a small group of people that can gatekeep people. Sure, we can have that conversation. I think that's an important conversation to have. That said, as it stands now, you have very few companies, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, that can enforce standards on you, and they're pretty much the big platforms. Twitter, another social media platform, that can also basically do what they want. Again, with these private companies, you don't have, you don't have the right to be platformed by them. Okay. Now, my problem here with YouTube banning Right Wing Watch was the fact that a lot of the content that they covered was still up on YouTube. The original channels that posted the hateful stuff that broke TOS was still up. But when Right Wing Watch posted it, or basically reposted it, those clips, they got hit by it. But the original creators, for example, Steven Crowder, his YouTube channel was up. It's still up, even though he is going on a month-long vacation after getting just absolutely obliterated by Sam Cedar, which was fantastic.
Oh no, Sam Cedar! What a fucking nightmare! We fucking nailed him.
He put up some of the most hateful, racist, sexist stuff on his channel. And yes, he'd gotten in trouble a little bit, demonetized before, but still up on YouTube. So that's one of the issues, okay, that I had. Now, again, Steven Crowder has his channel. Rick Wiles, the guy that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to show you a video from him. He's also up on YouTube. So the quartering, I should say, and on. So I just wanted to be clear. All right. Now, that said, let me go to Rick Wiles. Rick Wiles kicked off his True News program. Obviously, it's true because it's got true in the name, right? He kicked off his program Monday night about the ban and was basically cheering on the decision, and actually literally said that it wasn't just YouTube that banned Right Wing Watch, that it was Jesus himself.
I suspect that there will be layoffs very soon inside the organization because there's no platform for them to spew their lies and propaganda. So their writers, their editors, all the people that they had working to smear us and other ministries, what are they going to do? I suspect they're going to lose their jobs this week. I'll tell you, the first thing that came to my mind today, the Bible tells us not to gloat over the demise of our enemies. But Romans 12:19 sums it up very well. Beloved, Never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. And this is a prime example in real time.
Yes.
Where we didn't fight back against Right Wing Watch. I did what the Lord said to do, bless them. Yeah, I mean, I never prayed, God, burn their building down. I just, Lord, bless them, bless my enemies. I didn't fight, I didn't hire lawyers, I didn't sue. I turned it over to the Lord and said, you deal with my enemies in the way you see fit. He shut down Right Wing Watch today. Let me make this very clear today. Jesus Christ shut down Right Wing Watch. This is an example of God working through unsaved people at YouTube to carry out his vengeance against those who attack and smear his servants. And so I didn't have to lift a finger against Right Wing Watch. I think they'll disappear in the coming weeks and months. There's no purpose for them now.
That clip brought to you by Right Wing Watch. Oops. Oh. Ooh. Too soon. Again, not long after he did that, they brought back Right Wing Watch. Now, the fact, of course, that he thinks that, oh, no, it was the miraculous hand of Jesus Christ that banned Right Wing Watch for smearing. But again, all Right Wing Watch does is takes your videos and then puts them up on their channel and says, look what this asshole's saying. That's it. That's what they do. And so, yeah, boy, did that age poorly. But he's not the only one who had some pretty poorly aged takes from this. In fact, here, I'm going to show you a couple of tweets. It says a couple of conservatives. Six and Hammer and 666. Apparently he's a alt-right content creator as well. I condemn the reinstating of copyright infringements and serial detoxing Right Wing Watch. First of all, dude, have you ever heard of fair use? What is wrong with you? Fair use! It's not copyright infringing to take your content and put commentary on it. Oof. And then CJ Pearson, to the conservatives defending Right Wing Watch today, please stop. People like you are the reason we lose. I know. How dare you show the people what we're actually saying? I mean, come on. And by the way, the conservatives, I haven't seen any conservatives defend Right Wing Watch, but if you did, I'm pretty sure it was defending him on the basis of free speech, which is totally fine. Again, free speech doesn't actually exist on these platforms unless you actually wanted to do something radical like nationalize it, where then they can, of course, use the First Amendment to protect all forms of, again, nonviolent speech, which ironically, a lot of the stuff still on the right wing would get rejected because it does call for violence, which is unconstitutional. But anyway, it's hilarious. All Right Wing Watch does is repost what the chuds are saying. And so, I don't know. Bad timing, aged poorly, but hilarious. Fun times. All right, let's get to disaster. Get a Bill Cosby. All right. Convicted sex offender Bill Cosby has been released from jail. So now the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has overturned Cosby's sexual assault conviction, and of course he's to be released. Now, let me give you the details on this because there's a couple of things here that really need to be pointed out. For one, this isn't because the merits of the case that was brought against him were bad. Okay, this has everything to do with process, and not only that, but it is also not an exoneration of what Bill Cosby had done. And so let me give you some details here. Now, as I said, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has ruled that the non-prosecution agreement with a previous prosecutor should have prevented him from being charged in the case in the first place, and therefore, as a result, he should not have been convicted and had gone to prison. So, a violation of a previous agreement. So this is a technicality. Okay, so now the 83-year-old comedian has served more than 2 years with a 3 to 10 year sentence in state prison in Montgomery County after his conviction on charges that he drugged and molested Temple University employee Andrea Constant in 2004. Now, Bill Cosby has over 60 women that have come out and testified against him. Now, the court case only dealt with Andrea Constant in 2004. And in fact, some of the testimony was, okay, let me go and explain this. Okay, so there was evidence of a damning deposition lawsuit that was used in the case where, Andrea Constant, in this case, using Andrea Constant for that rape allegation in 2004. Okay. And so what happened here is a technicality because you had a previous agreement from that deposition saying, well, you can't now use this to go after me in this case later on. And so apparently, according to this, they had no basis to go after him again. It's really pretty messed up. Okay. So now, the case had a complicated history that began in 2005 when Constant had reported the alleged assault to then Montgomery County District Attorney Bruce Castor Jr., who ultimately declined to file charges in the case. But Castor's successors had reopened the case and charged Cosby back in 2015, just days before the 12-year statute of limitations had expired, amid a barrage of new accusations from men across the country, the 60 aforementioned women. At the time, Castor objected to the new prosecution, saying he had struck a deal with Cosby and his lawyers not to prosecute him for Constant's assault if Cosby agreed to sit for a deposition in a civil case. That deposition, of course, the information was used in the 2015 case, which again, basically is where he admitted that, yes, he did drug and rape her. So obviously he admitted it, he did it, and that evidence was used against him. So now he was charged again in 2015 from that deposition from the lawsuit and ended up getting arrested before that statute of limitations had expired. So now, basically, to summarize, the DA cut a deal with Cosby that if he testified in a civil deposition, he would not face criminal trial. Cosby did do his part, but the DA had reneged on that. And so what you ended up having is that deal get reneged on. And so, well, technicality, according to the court. None of that means that Cosby did not commit any of those rapes. It just means that the prosecution reneged on a deal, and therefore, according to the court, well, hey, look, you made a deal not to charge him, so I guess we got to overturn that. Well, great. This is a technical problem. The prosecution messed up, and you have a rapist that is now free. Literal miscarriage of justice here. Okay. The over 60 women that spoke out that were victimized by Cosby are now victimized once again. This is disastrous. And there is nothing that I know of that anybody can do about it now. What do you do? Like double jeopardy? No, you can't do that. So he goes free. And so now the question is, why would they have allowed him to make that deal to not prosecute him back then? Well, a lot of it, I think, has to do with money. A lot of it has to do with, I believe, fame. And so that's what I think about that deal. And so, unfortunately, whatever happened, if that is truly the cause of this deal or whatever, it's a terrible miscarriage of justice. It's a slap in the face to the women who have been victimized. And now you have, again, a rapist that has gone free. Maybe a civil suit. I don't know. All I know is that this sucks. Let's just say it sucks. Hillary's husband hasn't been touched by prosecutors. Let's try to avoid the whataboutism. Okay? This particular case is disastrous. Okay. Let's move on. It appears the establishment is pulling out the big guns against Nina Turner. Now, following her crushing in the polls and crushing in fundraising, Nina Turner is scaring a lot of establishment Democrats. So much so that they have asked James Clyburn to intervene in the primary coming up next Tuesday. So now Clyburn is an establishment Democrat. He is now endorsing Cuyahoga County Councilwoman Chantel Brown in the race for Marcia Fudge's seat that was vacated by her becoming head of the Housing and Urban Development Department. So now, Clyburn, here we go. Clyburn's trying to probably repeat the trick that happened during the Democratic primary, where Bernie Sanders had, nearly beaten. I should say he was doing really, really well in the primary race against all the different opponents. Clyburn stepped in, endorsed Joe Biden, and then, of course, we had just the Super Tuesday. That was not super. Now, there's a big, big difference between then and this seat. Of course, I think a lot of primary voters that were swayed by Clyburn were basically swayed by the fact that people were worried about Donald Trump. And so in this case, here you have Nina Turner, who is in a very safe Democratic district that generally votes, for the most part, for Democrats. And so you don't have that fear of a Republican coming in and taking over. And so I'm curious to see what kind of argument Clyburn is going to make for Chantel Brown, especially considering how Chantel Brown and Nina Turner are both African-American women of color. So we're going to see. But now, in addition to Clyburn's endorsement, according to Axios, Brown has received the backing of establishment Democrats, including Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. I reported on that. When that endorsement hit, she Nina Turner raised a ton of money, which was great. Not only that, but Brown also received the endorsement of former Ohio Attorney General Richard Cordray and Joyce Beatty. That's Representative Joyce Beatty. Turner, for her case, has earned the endorsements of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. And so, let's see. Here's what Clyburn had to say about this, by the way. He said, quote, "What I try to do is demonstrate by precept and example how we are proceed as a party." Meaning, of course, we're going to proceed with the establishment. We're not going to go with a Bernie Sanders aligned person. Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner was Bernie Sanders' campaign co-chair and was a surrogate back in 2016. So she is known as somebody who is aligned with the progressive wing of the party. That is something that people like James Clyburn cannot abide. Understand that they despise progressives. And so here's what he also said, quote, "When I spoke out against sloganeering like Burn Baby Burn in the 60s and defund the police, which I think is cutting the throats of the party, I know exactly where my constituents are. They are against that, and I'm against that." So now we're talking about defund the police again, which I actually agree with. I think it's a good idea. And I think that if you put it in a way where you're pointing out how police are overtaxed with the things that they have to do, right? Mental health checks, that police should not be doing that. Okay. They should not be playing mental health checks. They should not be doing a lot of the things that they're doing right now, and they shouldn't be militarized while they're doing it. Defund the police, when you explain it and break it down, actually makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, people that are part of the establishment, well, they're okay with more police funding. And not only that, but they basically accept the right-wing framing of this, which is police protect you. In reality, of course, and there's court cases to back this up, where the police are actually not under any sort of obligation to protect you. And so that's really what it is. But again, when it comes back to that, understand that James Clyburn is definitely to the right of somebody like Nina Turner, part of the Democratic establishment, and the establishment fights to protect its own. And so I think that that's really what it's about. It's about trying to head off another member of what would be considered the squad, another progressive in office. And so they've actually had to jump into this, felt like they had to jump into this in order to head off somebody that would champion things like Medicare for all, for example, or higher wages. And they cannot handle that. They don't want this stuff to happen. They want to keep things status quo. And Nina Turner really represents a sea change as far as politicians go. And, she would bolster the left wing, the progressive caucus, and that gives us more power in Congress and them less power. So, yeah. Again, they can't handle that. Okay. I think I'm going to have to cut it short today. Because I am just still not feeling great. So I'm going to have to save this story. I know. It's a long story. I'm going to have to change it, and save it for tomorrow about the hospital and how Medicare for all would help in this situation, in a lot of different situations. So anyway, thank you for going on the initiative with me today. Sorry I'm such a scatterbrain, but it's just it's a long story. Let's just say that. All right. Thank you all. I do appreciate it. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. And I will, I'll try to do some relaxation, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Also, thank you for all the gifted subs and the bits. I do really, really appreciate that. So thank you for all that. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Amazing. Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.